Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. Alright.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Train Man, and we are back out on the launch pad again. Well, we will be. Here we are. This is the updated version of the King's Cross, and we are just about to light this candle. I'll warn you right now, this is post-commentary, because I goofed and deleted the audio. Well, I deleted my audio, I didn't delete the game's audio, it's still there. I just have it muted for this. I'll also warn you that I have a head cold, which is making things a bit unpleasant. I'm kind of glad I deleted that audio. But we are ascending now. This was, I think, the third or fourth attempt at flying this thing. One of the times we had one of the boosters fall off. That was after I fixed the launcher. The launcher is actually borrowed from the bundler, the first planetary busser, with a few more boosters tacked on because this thing's slightly heavier. But either way, it's working fine. It's working all fine and dandy. I wasn't sure if it was going to. I mean, it was kind of confusing that one of the boosters just decided to pop off when we came to the staging last time, and that's almost where I started the episode. But I decided that, in and of itself, it was over an hour anyways, so it wasn't really worth that kind of time investment for either of us, because now I'm going to sit here for an hour and record this. Don't worry about it. So I'm just throttling back, trying to get us into a good position where we're conserving fuel, but I conserved too much fuel, and now we're slowing down. It's very different recording this like this. It's kind of a surreal experience because I already know what's going to happen, and I'm just trying not to spoil it, even though I kind of did, because I started at this point, which is the one good launch that we got out of this thing. I mean, not to say there won't be any better ones in the future, but this was a good launch. That's when I noticed I remembered to put on lights, because the first launch didn't have lights. Didn't have RCS either, and I was kind of kicking myself for that. Either way, I couldn't have launched it because I didn't have the right launcher. Just didn't have enough Delta V to get us up there. So we're burning away, and really, this episode was originally designed to be putting the entire ship together. Didn't turn out to be quite so. There wasn't nearly enough just oomph behind what we were doing. This held me back. I started this video about 20 minutes into the recording, so there were 20 minutes of failure before this, which I really didn't feel like are necessary for inclusion here. I launched on the dark side, which probably wasn't the best idea. Eventually, I spin us all around to the light side for when we do the docking. We do get one docking done this episode, I'll say that much. But the light side over here, light side on the other side of the planet, we're stuck on the dark side of the moon, dark side of Kerbin. Little Pink Floyd in there somewhere. But whatever we did, it was probably the extra boosters, but I'm not going to owe it directly to them, because they didn't seem to help that much. They definitely did, they just didn't look like they did. Because when we got up there, we seem to have a lot more fuel. We've got loads of fuel right now, by my standards, but we're burning it pretty quickly, because we have a lot of engines on here. Yeah, we're going up there. We're on our way up. Right now we've just got the station in orbit. We have tons of debris in orbit, but right now we just have the station in orbit in terms of inhabited modules or remote control modules. Everything else is broken. Something I did bring up, however, was I didn't... whatchamacallit? No, sorry. It was about debris. It was about the debris because There's a point at which a piece of debris passes dangerously close, not dangerously close, like 25 kilometers, from one of our spacecraft, but point is I can see it. And when I see it go by, that's too close. I mean, it'd be a lot funnier if it just slammed into it and ruined the mission. I'd really try not to hit revert flight, even though I probably would anyways, just out of instinct. But, causing an abolition cascade, if that's what it's called. I think that's what it's called. I'm trying to remember my gravity quotes. Oh yeah, we're spinning out of control. At this point I was yelling at it to get back under control, because it was rather out of control, if you notice. It's rolling considerably. But point of the abolition cascade thing is, debris slams into this, creates more debris, that debris slams into more things. I mean, we're not playing with remote tech on here, we don't have a satellite network orbiting the planet, so we wouldn't have really that much to lose, per se. But it'd still be kind of annoying having to watch out for a lot of debris. What would probably be the easiest thing to do if something like that happened would be to well, first of all, you could just end all the flights, which is not something I like doing. Or you could get up there with, what's the thing where you shoot the balls? The Kerbal, the blowy-uppy Kerbal thing. Whack-a-Kerbal, there. That's what it is. Aw, you know what was great that you guys are gonna miss now? Dang it. I was griping about how I had to keep blowing my nose. By the way, I just cheated a bit there, and I continue to do that, and I apologize to anyone who was offended by that, but we were pretty out of control. I was griping about not being able to blow my nose. Or just being stuffy in general and runny and all that jazz. And I was saying, to sneeze or not to sneeze? That is the question. And I went on this whole thing. I mean, I know very little of Hamlet, and I know even less of that speech, but I felt like it turned out pretty good. Now that audio is lost forever, and I probably couldn't conjure it up if I wanted to. One of these days I'll try to figure it out. So just keeping an eye on our fuel up there in the corner. We're burning away pretty well, although we've lost the main engines. We're just kind of on the auxiliaries, and the 30s are going to burn out pretty quick, and the 45s are going to go right after. So we're working our way towards an orbit, but we're not there yet. At about 2 Gs of acceleration. This game has taught me so much about physics. Like, unbelievably. But we're burning this thing outwards. I believe in this video I also talked a lot about the real scale Kerbin mod. Not something I wanted to get, but something I was kind of looking at. It's kind of cool. But I thought the way they built the game, I didn't feel like it was necessary, because then they'd have to, if they really wanted to make it work that way, they'd have to change all the parts and like the fuel densities and things. I don't know why those are on a different stage. Or why those guys even have Sepatrons at all. But we just make a mess, that slams into that, explodes, and something goes flying by the screen, and we turn on our nuclear engines in order to finish this burn once and for all. They burn so little fuel, it's ridiculous. It's great. The only problem is the low delta V while we're towing this thing all the way to Ike. This is a mission to Ike, by the way. What I could do, though, what I did just think up in my head to do, I don't have Kerbal alarm clocks, so it'd be a pain, but if I'm gonna get one mod, I'm gonna get them all. And I'm still compiling my list. I added another mod, which I'll talk to you in just a second about, to that list. Alright, just settling up. We've made ourselves into an orbit, and I think this is when I say good enough is good and back out and start working on the other one. Start working on getting the other piece into orbit. Yeah, there we go. Nope, nope, not revert flight, you dummy. Space Center. You're too tired to be making videos. Where was I? Right. No, I don't know where I was, actually. I'll just skip to the next topic on the list, which was exoplanetary launch pads. That's what it was. When I originally first heard of the mod, I thought it was a very dumbed-down, kind of simple thing. Like, you could just land on a planet, and then suddenly you can launch rockets from this planet. Not at all. It's more resource harvesting, and frankly, I love resource harvesting. I think it's really cool. I got really into Kethane. What are you looking for, dude? Just go get the, go get Grace. There you go. I'm yelling at myself. Man, I'm tired. So this thing is ringed by way too many solid fuel boosters. And we're going to space with it. Now, the other rocket originally did not have nearly enough Delta V. This thing ends up having way too much. We have lots of fuel left over when it comes down to it. However, I don't know how much fuel is too much, so we'll probably be sending a refueler up. No, who am I kidding? I'm too lazy for that. I could always send a refueler up. I'll amend my statement. I could always send a refueler up to just kind of top these guys off after we dock them together, which you'll see in the video. But I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if we strand more... Hey! There aren't supposed to be 3 people in here. If we strand more people out there, we'll just send an even bigger spaceship. No, I don't know. I don't know what we'll do. We probably will actually just send a bigger spaceship. Or we'll just send a refueler. That's probably smarter. Of course, if something blows up and we're actually stuck out there, then yeah, we have to send a bigger spaceship. But if we're just trapped there by our own stupidity. Though there will only be 3 people there. I'm just running out of train of thought here. There will only be 3 people in total. There'll be Bill, who I think is stuck in the Mark 1 lander can, or Mark 1 command pod, Mark 1, whatever the little black command pod is. I always forget. He's stuck out there. We're gonna have the dude on the lander, and then we're gonna have the dude in the capsule. This is me just sticking a bunch of science gizmos on it because why not? And then saying, yeah, we're not gonna be in an atmosphere or land at any point. We don't really need these things. And then I changed my mind, figured that when we've landed, why not? Just use them, get a couple of extra science points out of the mission. And whatever. If we crash land somewhere, if we have to ditch... I don't know why I pulled that thing out, just to see the size of it. If we have to ditch on Duna, for whatever reason, these guys can land in their little capsule and take seismic readings and send them back to Kerbin, like good little Kerbals. I'm just waiting for the loading screen to pass, and now we're back in the launch pad, and suddenly all 3 people are back. What the heck? That was me going, what the hell? Go away, I just put you guys away. There we go. All the way back into the vehicle assembly building. We have to roll the ship all the way back in. Get rid of download and Boblin. Save, launch, and really hope Boblin didn't invite his friends this time. I told him no parties in the capsule, and he does it anyways. I don't know what I'm going to do with him. He's too courageous, I tell you. I should just slam him into a planet. Okay, maybe that's a little harsh. I'll just send him on a one-way trip to Eve. I've done that to people before. I have a Lars. On my other save file, I have a Lars stuck on Eve. He can't leave. No, like, rhyming intended there. But he's just trapped forever. Boblin looks a little bit worried. Without his friends, he's not so courageous. I guess he works well in a team. Well, it's okay. You'll have one random Kerbal up with you, when we get the lander up there. Don't worry, Boblin, you're only gonna die. So we're rising pretty quickly, I noticed. And I was trying to... I'm not sure if I ever tried to come back and save fuel. I probably did at some point. But again, I saved too much fuel and ended up slowing down by the time these solid fuels dropped, which is just going to be in a couple of seconds, we'll see. Either way you spin it, I didn't save any fuel, but the rocket was too heavy for itself, and I had to start an early gravity turn. Either way, it worked out, but... Yeah, see, we drop those, something explodes, I get nervous, but notice that nothing in particular is wrong there. There aren't any flashing lights or fires or spinning out of control, so we just begin a light gravity turn in order to get some of our velocity back. Alright, so we're accelerating again. Good. I bring us back to more of a vertical trajectory because I notice our prograde is kind of sliding downwards. I realize I don't have any lights on the ship. Whoops. Also realize I did not put the crowdsourced science messages back in, and notice the derp ship debris. Did not put the crowdsourced science messages back in because I just simply forgot. It's something I can do very quickly in my spare time. See the puffy clouds kind of floating towards us, not sure what they are. And just take a peek at our map view and come back. There's Mont rising in the background. And then I do that for whatever reason and almost flip us out and crash because I'm an idiot and I'm tired and I'm not sure what I'm doing. And I'm just about as smart as a Kerbal right now. Because I deleted the audio file. Let's not do that again. So we're still going up. Up, up, and away. Atmosphere is falling, atmosphere is fading fast. There's the space center in the distance, so far down below us. So far down below us. And we're finally getting up there. I should begin nosing over. You know what I probably should have done? I should have brought one of those science modules with me, but that would have been a lot of payload. I mean, we know we have a rocket that can get one into orbit. Just would one of our bussers be able to fly it all the way to Duna? I'm sure it would. We could try it one of these days. Maybe if we go to the Joule system. I feel like life is going to be a lot more lucrative. Oh, I let this thing tumble end over end because I couldn't get it back straight. Life is going to be a lot more lucrative once we get, I don't know, maybe robotic arms that we can put on autonomous rovers and get surface samples with. Because that's the one downside of robotic probes over Kerbals, or Kerbals over robotic probes is they can collect surface samples. And make EVA reports. I'm not sure why you'd EVA report from a rover, because there is no such thing as extravehicular activity when you are the vehicle. I mean, I guess there's sort of as in humans you can have an out-of-body experience, but that's kind of in the realm of strange phenomena of the unexplained. There goes the snowplow again. It is snowing quite heavily here, and that's why I'm making this video this late. Of course, you guys can't tell, other than the fact that I keep saying I'm tired, which I shouldn't be. It's very unprofessional. I should never share my feelings. Oh, there it is, by the way. One of the debris from one of the bells. No idea what it is, but I go on the map and I have to check. I still never figured out which piece of debris it is. I should have gone and looked at it. I was just too busy making an orbital burn. This is when I actually talk about the abolition cascade and thinking about if I were to cause one. Oh yeah, I was on that subject, wasn't I? With the remote tech, like having a satellite network and causing an abolition cascade where everything just goes boom and makes a giant cloud of debris. One of the ways to do it would be if that cloud of debris has an open spot, just shoot for that and go for a higher orbit than, say, 100 by 100, go for 200 by 200, and hope to God that the debris doesn't come up that high if there's that much debris. You know what's funny, the game was running rather smoothly today considering the amount of debris we had kicking around. I don't think it must not be the debris that's really causing all that lag, it just might have been something that was just happening. And I begin angling more and more upwards because I'm losing altitude and the apoapsis is kind of kicking out. So I'm trying to keep the apoapsis down. While still maintaining my own altitude. But the thing with remote tech, I'm just going to take a wander over back to the mods because it's been on my mind. I can't get my modded save up and running because B9 isn't updated yet. I mean, my flash drive got all screwed and I had to format the whole thing because it got transferred over to RAW file format and I just didn't feel like all those steps to get it back. None of the simple stuff was working, so I looked at the complicated stuff and I said, nah, it's not that important, just video games. And then I deleted everything. Because it was just video games. But probably the most annoying thing I lost was I'm testing for orbits here and I'm going, no, that's not quite right, let's turn that back. That's not quite right either. I just decided to put myself in a 100 by 200 and then see how that lines up eventually. Oh yeah, the most annoying thing to lose was my list of mods, because I had to go find them all again. And I showed my friend Interstellar, and he tried to get the warp drive working. I have no idea how to go get a warp drive working, by the way. But I'm waving my cursor around for some reason. Something about the Kerbal alarm clock, I think I was talking about. Yeah, I was talking about Kerbal alarm clock and something I have to come around to, which is running a mission to Minmus as this thing flies to Joule. Running maybe a multi-probe mission to collect service samples from all over Minmus. As this thing goes to Duna. Did I just say Joule? It's going to Ike anyways, not Duna. But it's going to the Duna system. So I guess that's close enough. So I'm fast forwarding around to get on the light side of the planet. Well, actually just to get to my maneuver node, which happens to be on the light side of the planet. I mean, if you guys notice, I put those docking ports on the side in case of a refuel was necessary. It didn't turn out to be that necessary, if you notice how much fuel I have. I missed my mainsail. That's why I want to go to Minmus. Not only to explore the new biomes, because I think it's cool, and I don't have too much practice landing. I tried to design some super light landers. You can see screenshots of my Steam profile of 2-person ultra light landers. They always ran out of fuel. They didn't have nearly enough fuel to come down, but it was really funny because I put a parachute on them and I turned them into escape pods instead. So I'm just swinging around. I'm going to have to come around a bunch because we're so far distant from this thing. I probably should have used its engines, kicked it out into a higher orbit and let me catch up to it, but that just didn't occur to me at the time. I've got to think more logically about how I do these intercepts these days. Also didn't occur to me until very close to the end. Yeah, he's only been out here for an hour, so we can do plenty of orbits and not worry about it. By the way, this is when I'm talking about life-size Kermit. You see I'm, like, motioning just to where stuff is. I actually have no idea where stuff is, but I'm just taking a gander at where I feel like stuff is. Basically saying it's a really long way. So I keep swinging around the planet here. Been in space for 2 hours now. Probably getting bored. I would be. Just kidding. Maybe not. I don't know. I've never been to space. So I don't know how bored I'd be. I'd probably just be mesmerized looking out the window, like doing stuff in 0G, eating snacks. I don't know. I'm just taking advice from the Kerbals here. I feel like eating snacks is a very high priority once you're in space. At least from their point of view. I'm wondering what kind of things I can build on Mun with the extraplanetary launch pads. Alright, I'm trying to line up a very good intercept now because we're almost there. We are almost there. We are quite close. So I'm spinning us around, and we come around this one orbit to get our encounter really close together, and then we start burning to fix it. Not just yet, because we have to come around and we have to go around again in order for them to sync up. But if you notice, in 3, 2, 1, click, that's kind of close. Then I try to maneuver over there for whatever reason. Turns out to be a bad idea. Not a surprise. So then I bring it way over here. Get rid of it. Put it back. And then I start fiddling with it. That's the wrong way. That's the right way. Hey, that was almost spot on right there. Too bad we're on the wrong plane. Let's fix that. So I start nudging that plane up there. Good plane correction. Start bringing it in like that. Decide, no, never mind. Adjust it just a tad. Just like that. There we go. Now we are in. And I'm trying to get a little better, and I just decide, good is good enough. And leave it at 27.7 kilometers for when we come around. But I have to spin into orbit I have to spin into position to get this maneuver. And that's the issue, because using RCS, and this thing is really, really unwieldy. I mean, without that giant extra pile of fuel in the back, it'd be nice. And it is. But right now, it's not. I think I just found another piece of the cup. So if you guys, here's a little anecdote. If you guys recall, when the reboot Star Trek came out, they released 4 cups. Kirk, Spock, Uhura, and Nero, the villain. If you weren't familiar with the movie. Well, I had all 4. That is until the... I'm not going to say the cat bumped it. I think it might have been the cat or it might have been me. Either way, the cat was over here. I turned. This table over here collapsed. Because I have a crappy little wooden side table next to the desk that I keep stuff on. Like my laptop. Laptop goes on the floor. Phone goes on the floor. Nero cup goes on the floor. Spock cup breaks on the floor. I mean, I should consider myself pretty lucky. I mean, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Spock obviously sacrificed himself so that the others may live. But who knows? He probably didn't. He's a cup, not a person. Looking at all the debris that we made. Some of the stuff in really eucalyptical orbits. Elliptical orbits, eucalyptical orbits. Why did that just come into my head? Whatever. So I need to get into a good position now. Spin myself around. You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, right round, round, round. And then I use a time warp to stop. Because I'm a cheater like that. And I continually do that throughout this episode, and I found myself getting angry at myself for doing that. That was actually a legitimate use of time warp right there. And I feel myself getting a little close, and I'm gonna start drifting away, so I just spin. Very quickly spin, use the RCS. And fire engines. Because that retrograde marker starts moving away very quickly. And that means it's going to start swinging around to the other side of us and drifting away. Not necessarily swinging around to the other side of us, but it's going to start moving, what is that called? Retrograde motion, I think, when something looks like it's going backwards, but it's just moving backwards relative to you. It happens with, I think, Mars or Venus or something like that. Who knows, maybe it happens to both. Alright, so I ditched that stage. Because it was getting really unwieldy. Just adding to the possibility of an abolition cascade with that piece of debris right there. Fortunately, with Kerbal Space Program physics, if you're time warped, the ships will just go through each other. So we don't need to worry about satellites and debris smashing into each other while I'm not paying attention. It would have to be something where I'm on one of the ships and this piece of debris is coming flying for me. Now, I'm not sure if I'd notice it or not. I've never been in the situation. But it'd be cool to see happen. And I'd rather it not happen right now. Also, I believe Scott Manley said something about if you were to, say, let something loose from the ISS, like drop a wrench into deep space, it would be moving away from you with relatively little velocity. So it would just kind of bump when it came back, because you'd still have that same relative velocity. Also, another interesting fact about the space station learned from Scott Manley: when the shuttle's coming up, it plans an approach so that it never has to fire RCS jets directly at the space station. Not sure how they do that, but that's cool. It starts its approach from way farther out, I guess, and lines itself up and just goes. That's why they have a docking computer, and we have a dude named Bombs321 who sits over here and flies spaceships. And that's why he doesn't work at NASA as a piloting computer. That's one of the first times I've ever referred to myself as Bombs 321. Normally it's Train Man. Sometimes it's just Ellis. On the other channel, it's just either the Admiral or Admiral Ellis. Or even just Ellis, depending on what I'm reading. Depending on who's addressing me and whatever I'm reading. Speaking of reading, tomorrow, as of this recording, is going to be allocated for the construction, or the creation of more of the zombie train, because I've been typing away, just kind of getting stuff down, working on things. I've set aside a couple of hours so that I can work on it in the morning with the Mariah's Pass route up, and I can just kind of right away, because I'm going to finish it and probably release it well before I start acting it out in TRS. Because I don't see myself acting this stuff out before I know where it's really going. Because until I finish the book, I might want to go back and change stuff at the beginning. Even if I do finish it, I might want to go back and change stuff. By the way, I did say book. It will be quite long, and will probably be either A, cut down for the video, or B, just part of it will be left out, like the last half, depending on what the last half ends up being. I'm also working on a couple of things with this friend of mine named Weibold, or Weebold. I always pronounce his name wrong. I don't know why, it's just kind of become a thing for me to do. Name's Weebold, pronounce it Weibold. On the server, he's Weebold4449. And we've been kind of working on some collab stuff. He's been writing his own part of the Zombie Train, and eventually we're going to do a cooperative story with a mission that involves both of our characters and both of our trains. He brings himself into the same predicament, or not really predicament, same situation as I do, except where I've spent 2 years running errands, he's spent 2 years scrounging up for his life, and just living off the land as best he can instead of, he hasn't quite had such the luxurious life that we have on the zombie train. I mean, seriously, you can get a lot of stuff by bartering and doing these errands for people. So I switched to King's Cross now that I'm close, because I finally remember, hey, we have nuclear engines. I start way zoomed out for no reason. I remember, hey, we have nuclear engines, we should be using these. They have a much higher specific impulse. So we just set that thing as our target and we start going towards it. Right now we're drifting away, so I have to cancel our relative velocity and then just keep going in that direction, and we'll end up going towards it. And go, and that retrograde marker is going to switch around. This is where I point out the fact that this thing is like flying a brick with a tiny propeller on it. In space, no less. Because this thing does not maneuver for crap. I should have put more RCS on it or something. But this thing is impossible to turn without RCS on. Or without the engines going. If you notice, I'm using RCS this whole time because I couldn't maneuver without it. It was damn near impossible. So I'm spinning around to our retrograde, and I'm going to kill our relative velocity, which is only 17 meters a second. So it goes away pretty quick. We're not even on full throttle. Bring us to 5. Just line up again, and fire again. I'm nudging that more towards our move move towards your target marker. I'm not sure what the marker is actually called. It's just a pink circle in my mind. I was confused for a minute why we had solid fuel, and then I remembered I put Sepatrons on those tanks because we were going to be dragging something. And if I deploy the tanks mid-burn, I don't want them slamming into something behind us, so they're going to be shooting off in another direction. And this is the first time I've really had the chance to concentrate on my resources instead of actually flying the ship, and it's kind of cool to watch them all go up and go down, depending on what you do. So we're closing to within 200 meters here, and then within 100 meters pretty soon. I test out using the RCS to slow down and realize it's just not positioned correctly to do that, so I spin us around, and when we're at about 80, I start killing that velocity, get us down to 0, all the way down to 0. That way I can not worry about this thing drifting away. And instead of even bothering to worry about that, I turn towards the ship I'm trying to dock with, even though I'm not on the right kind of translation angle. And I just kick on the thrusters for 1 minute, and I start drifting towards it, and then I switch to it. Now I'm controlling it from there. Spin the camera around. Set that as the target, and now we're going to be moving towards the King's Cross. We're using our RCS on this one because it's a lot easier to control with the RCS. Now, I do notice a problem slightly after I dock, and that is the fact that I docked at the wrong end. And this thing doesn't have a rear port. Also realized that I didn't put solar panels or batteries on the command pod itself, so we've got to drop the main body of the spacecraft at the last moment as we're plummeting in to the atmosphere of whatever we're landing on. Maybe I should have stuck some landing legs on this. What if we had to make an emergency bailout to Duna? That'd be kind of cool, but not great. You know what would be actually really cool is if TAC life support included a way to mine up either oxygen or something you could turn into food or things like that on planets. I mean, again, that goes with the fact that I love resource harvesting. Especially in this game where you equip a ship for that certain mission and just send it out there to do it. And then you can have shuttles to go back and forth. It lends itself to a very, very complex space program, much more so than anything we have now. I know resources in this game was slated for a release at some point. Come on, dock. Come on, dock. I know they don't dock yet, and I have to turn off SAS and don't realize it. They're kind of wobbling around. They're not together, they're bouncing off each other. Then I go, wait a minute. And come on, I turned it off right now, right? Yeah, there we go. And now we're one ship, facing the wrong direction. Not only are we facing the wrong direction, the entire setups turn around. I'm just checking how much fuel we have. We have loads of fuel. And we still have one piece yet to get. Now I say something like, bask in this glory, Trey Men out.